Yeah, I'm not. I mean, there's a lot of things. I'm on social media, but I try to do as little personal interaction there. But yeah, I think there is a sense of outrage that we must have, but that. I, but let me sense. I'm just saying. I'm not justifying the reaction. I'm just saying there is a sense of sorrow, but also outrage. But I think it's pointed in the wrong direction.
Mm,
Scripture's really clear that our battle is not against flesh and blood,
yeah.
and we need to remind ourselves of that. As someone who, um, uh, you know, I don't want to say been in Lil Nas's shoes, but I've been. I know in a sense what he's going through. That's the
Right.
way I want to put it. I'm not at all a musician, or did I Satan worship any of that? But having lived in that community, I see where he's coming from, and apart from any of that, he's a very creative person. It's just, I mean, God created us to be creative beings. He created angels to be creative. Not, I mean, they don't create, but they're creative in a sense.
Mhm.
And Satan himself is a fallen angel, but so I think we could have done that better. And I think that there is a sense where we need to be more prayerful and much more intentional about the gospel and about preaching the gospel and about doing what we can to seek and
Yeah.
save the lost. So I
Love
think
that.
I always want to put incidents like this and see it through the lens of the gospel.
Mhm.
Jesus Christ came to seek and save the lost, and Lil Nas is someone who could be greatly used by the kingdom as someone who's very passionate and very, very creative. But he's not the enemy. Um, s- you know, we only have one that's a great enemy, and that great enemy is just deceiving people.
Yeah.
So
I'm
to
glad
me,
you
it leads me to grief and compassion.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I'm glad you said that because I think you do that, there's multiple things that you come away with when you put a different lens on it. You definitely don't come away with guns pointed at Lil Nas. You come away with compassion, but you also come away with looking at the real enemy. And in my opinion, when you do that, it's certainly not Lil Nas. What's actually the enemy, and it's not, by the way, I don't think Christians, because he tweeted out something that I think is really important. He said something that you Christians are mad. I hope you're mad because of the way that you made me feel, and I'm paraphrasing here, because of the way that you made me feel about my orientation and my lifestyle when I was growing up. So it's very clear that what he seems to be doing, and I hope this doesn't sound too uncharitable, it seems that he's falling into the trap of many young people, which is just rebellion. So he's what he's trying to do is he's trying to strike back at people that he felt hurt him. That's what this is really all about. I mean, he said it himself. And so what that tells me is that an old adage, hurting people hurt people. So the real enemy here definitely could be considered the evil one, the enemy, but the enemy here is the pain that Nas feels. And when we attack the shoes or when we attack him, we're missing the pain that needs to be addressed. And I'm just curious about your personal experience here because I've had some questions about this. And you can only speak to your experience, but perhaps maybe you can speak a little bit more broadly than that. Uh, how has the church, so this is a multi-tiered question, I suppose, and you can approach it any way you want, but I'm ultimately interested in this question. Does the church have a bad rap when it comes to homosexuality? Do we get accused of being hateful simply because we have a different opinion about sexuality? Or is it that we have dealt with it poorly in the past? And now, and I'd like to hear about your personal experience, because you kind of mentioned that your parents really approached you in a loving way. And I'm really curious if the vast majority of people who come out of the closet, have homosexual attraction, or LGBTQ community, whatever, have really had bad run-ins with Christians, or are in the like fashion that Christians were treating Lil Nas X as the devil, are we the devil to the LGBT community? But there's really no warrant for that. So I'm just kind of curious. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so from my personal experience, I mean, if you were to ask me 20 years ago, or if I can do the math right, 25 years ago, whatever it is, it's crazy to think that it's been that long, but I would have said, yes, I have personally experienced hatred and harm, whatever, et cetera. And, but if I were to think of those examples now as a Christian, post conversion, I wouldn't necessarily have said that those were hateful or hurtful experiences. Just definitely not from my parents, even though I would have said at that time before my conversion that my parents were hateful and hurtful. And so, it's all perspective. There is a sense where there's a tendency where it's easy to rewrite our history according to the lens through which we see things. And with that said, there still are Christians who are hurtful.
Catch new episodes of Indie Thinker with Reed Uberman for free right now by going to YouTube or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Simply type Indie Thinker with Reed Uberman in the search bar and click on my face. Don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe to stay informed when a new episode drops.